in my head, I knew the level to which I wanted it to be. And there was no way that I could physically do that myself at the speed that I wanted to launch the brand. So again, 2 years now, we're actually a year and a half, I would say our business has, and I just left my full-time job about, I think it's almost 4 months ago now, which is wild to think about. But I will say that the growth of the business, while I still had that job versus the exponentialness of what's happening now in the business since I fully left and leaned into it, it's pretty amazing.
Do you have a brilliant product idea but don't know where to start to get it made? Or are you looking to level up your product but afraid to take it overseas?
If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erin, and we are
the Sourcing Gals,
your trusted guides to everything you need to know about sourcing, manufacturing, and scaling your product overseas. Whether you are just starting out or you've been making your own product for a while, we are here to help women source products overseas without the overwhelm.
In each episode, we'll share insider tips, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories to help you source more effectively, save time, and boost your profits.
Duh!
We know how hard it can be to juggle the ins and outs of product development, but don't worry, we've got your back.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into how you can grow your business,
make more money,
and turn your products into profit. Welcome to the
Sourcing Gals. Now let's get started. High five.
Hi. Welcome to
the Sourcing Gals.
We are so excited about today to bring you something that is long awaited. I feel like we keep saying one day we're going to share this or that. And then,
well, now we're here.
We're
sharing.
Now we're here. We are going to start digging into some of our own personal product journeys. And we're going to start with Jackie's with Piper and Mint, a gorgeous, innovative pajama brand. And let's get into it. Let's talk to the listeners about everything. But I want to take it from the top probably, which is like your brand journey doesn't just start with Piper and Mint.
Yeah, definitely not. This has been a lifelong journey, truly. I mean, it's funny looking back on it because anyone who knows me now and even like family can say, oh yeah, you were like a born entrepreneur. But that word never came out of anybody's mouth to me until very, very, very late in life. And even, I don't even know if it still has, to be honest, but the way that I was wired, like I was built for business from a very young age. While most kids were doing lemonade stands, I had lemonade and jewelry stands, right? And I was always crafting. I would spend hours, in my basement. I remember my first clothing I made was a patchwork hoodie, and I sewed the patches together and I made a hoodie. And it was not cute, but I was so proud of it. And I think I was in 4th grade, and it was hours in my basement. I would have patterns and go to this fabric shop, and my mom would just like let me do my thing in the basement. So I was always creating and crafting from a very, very young age. And I also saw business opportunity everywhere. Like, again, the lemonades, like, let's upsell them. Let's add on some jewelry, right? Or add on. I was running a babysitters club out of my backyard in 4th grade. I was babysitting. I got certified because I was like, I want to make money and I love children. And so this is a great way to do it. But then my first big transaction, I would say, was in, I think, like 5th to 6th grade. It was probably in 6th grade, to be honest, was the actual transaction. But I had been collecting Beanie Babies from a very young age. I called them tie guys. I did not know what they were when I started collecting them. We had a Hallmark store in our town, and I would go and I'd take my babysitting money, and they were $5. Remember, they were $4.99, and I would go and buy one. I just thought they were cute. Well, then turns out Beanie Babies became the craze.
Quite a thing.
Quite a thing. And I had enough of again, I could see white space opportunity, and we had a baseball card and coin collector in our downtown area, in our train station. And there was a sign that said wanted Beanie Babies. And this was the very beginning birth of eBay, like just when trading like this was starting to happen. And it was booming. And guess what? I had the OG camel. I had the OG ladybug. I had the OG elephant. And I remember walking in there and being like, I have some Beanie Babies to sell. And I'm literally this 6th grader coming in with my bin. That guy wrote me a check for $5,000.
That, I mean, I've heard this story before and it still blows my mind.
It blows my mind that someone would actually give a check to a, I mean, I have to ask I always keep saying I need to go back and ask my parents because I'm sure I had some adult with me. Like, I'm sure my parents were probably like bugging out when they realized like, oh my gosh. And I think I sold like 8 of them. Like, it wasn't even that much, but like my camel was worth like $1,500 alone. And it was just, and the fact that someone actually paid even more, hopefully he sold them, I don't know, for even more money. So that's when I like really got the bug. Like, I really got the bug of like, oh, you can see an opportunity and take advantage of it. You can make money and like bring hopefully someone else joy. Someone else hopefully is going to really enjoy that camel way more than I was because it was just sitting on a shelf in my bedroom. What's
funny about that too is that's a very early lesson in value because you, as a child and even, you know, growing up and high school and college, you think about what something costs versus what the value is to somebody, and they're not always the same.
Yep.
And, you know, that's a hard thing to learn.
I remember also in 5th grade was the first time that we learned, I'd call it basic economics. We had fake checkbooks and we would balance our checkbook.
I loved that. We did that in school too. Right? And I thought it was so fun.
So fun. And I also remember I opened up a bank account in 4th grade because I started babysitting and my dad's like, let's put the money away. We're going to save it. And I thought seeing interest in my bank statement was so freaking cool. Like, every time I go and deposit more money, I'm like, oh my gosh, my money just made, you know, back then I think you actually could make some interest. You know, it was like 25 cents. Like, oh my goodness, my money just made 25 cents for doing absolutely nothing, just sitting in a bank account. So that whole idea of economics, money, earning, growing, like, it's just been in me. And I'm very money motivated. Like, I also bring passion and heart and soul to any business that I do. But at the end of the day, like, I'm an entrepreneur. And so money is also a big motivator because to me, money is freedom. Money buys you luxuries and freedoms and rights. So it's not just money for money.
Space, some room to breathe, some feelings like you can relax. Yeah. Like that, it affords a lot.
So that's kind of, you know, throughout my, call it high school, did a lot of different hobbies, had no idea what I wanted to do though, going into college. I actually was one that did not want to go to college. I was like, I want to stay in high school forever. High school was I still call it my glory days. Some people are like, high school was the worst. Like, for me, that was my peak. I peaked in high school.
You did not.
It feels that way. So I ended up going to a small liberal arts college. And so again, I'd had hobbies. I had been crafting and doing nothing stuck though, right? In the meantime, I was in the dance team and in the theater group and doing all these other things that still got me like actively engaged with groups and leading people and getting people excited. And I go to Denison, and really the big aha thing was when I studied abroad. I started a business literally in Florence, Italy. And so that kind of just kicked me into this whole entrepreneurship again, being like, wow, I can really take a product idea and make money with it. Like, what else can I do with this? And so
now I'm going to interrupt you. I know you were a theology major, right?
Yeah.
But this experience when you studied abroad and you started the entrepreneurship, did that pivot your studies at all? Did you begin to focus differently in college than you had previously?
You would think, but no. And also at Denison, you know, I was coming out of studying abroad, almost going into my senior year. So it was kind of like too late to do anything with it. But to be fair, at the time, Denison didn't economics was the closest thing to business. And I'm not like, I mean, I like math, but I like easy math. You know, the idea of being like an econ major did not jazz me or light me up at all. However, we did have some cool business summer sessions you could do. And I did do those and I loved them and they were great. So there was some things I was able to add on kind of in the tertiary, but yeah, I couldn't really pivot. But to me, college was a means to an end. Like, I was never, it was buying some time to get me to the real world. Like, I've always wanted to work.
Yes.
Like, school was never my thing. I was an okay student. I'm great at talking, so I would talk my way. And my dad said, you got an A+ and BS is what he used to tell me.
That's
because
great.
I'm not your traditional book smart kind of girl. Like, I'm not well read. Like, I am street smart. I believe I can be savvy that way, but true.
That's
like,
funny because my dad always told me I should be a politician. And I was like, I don't think that's a compliment, but he's like, you just kind of weasel your way into wherever you need to be.
Exactly.
And I was like,
we're salespeople, right? So yeah. So anyways, I just happened to fall into this A&F thing, which if you listen to prior episodes, you know that I ended up going to work for Abercrombie and Fitch as a merchant right out of college. And I think what kept me in corporate so long is that corporate retail moves so fast. and they move you around so much. And so you're constantly learning new categories, new factories, new manufacturing. And with every move came a promotion and came more money.
Yeah.
And they keep you on that drug because of all of those reasons, right? And then
Absolutely.
eventually you max out of one company and you jump to the next. And so while my dad and my parents were looking at me like, even my husband, you're moving jobs again. Like that was the entrepreneur in me, always wanting more, always wanting to grow.
It's interesting you said that, because I remember when I interviewed at Abercrombie, and someone who interviewed me said that they can legitimately say no one day is the same ever.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, was that true. But when it starts feeling like Groundhog Day, when it starts feeling like, oh, I've lived this before, because you start having the same conversations and the seasonality becomes like a little bit too familiar.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's like, I need to go somewhere else.
And they would move. I mean, back then they
yeah.
would move you even before you even raised your hand, to be honest. And so that's how I spent 12 years in corporate retail, constantly changing corporations, constantly moving to bigger businesses, bigger categories, learning new categories. So it definitely kept me interested, because I do believe merchandising is like running your own mini business in a big corporation.
Totally.
So there is a lot of autonomy you're given, but then also at the end of the day, you still have a boss, and a boss who has a boss, and a boss who has maybe the market even as their final boss. So as I got higher in that career, I saw more levels, I saw more layers, and thinking like, I just don't know if this is it. But it's in those 12 years, I never truly once thought like, oh, I want to do my own business. Like I was very content to be getting to run a very large scale business in a well-structured company, to be honest. Like I was pretty content until the last bankruptcy happened, because retail is just tough, and private equity coming in and blowing things up. And that's when I made the move over to the manufacturing company. And that was really what I say started my entrepreneurial journey. I joined a company that had been a long-standing company, but it had kind of pivoted its focus to other opportunities. And so the company at the time when I joined, I had 2 direct reports, basically. I had 1 major account that I was running. And I remember my husband just saying, try it. Just try something different. You know what corporate retail's like. Let's just try it. If you don't like it, you can always go back, which was true. And it was the best decision I ever made, best jump I ever made. So all of a sudden now I'm in this small business, quote unquote, with full autonomy. I mean, almost scary. Like I can really do anything I want here. And it's like pretty much within reason.
But this is also where you start seeing smaller businesses coming to the table and starting from
scratch. Yeah. So we did a balance. We worked with startups all the way to your big box retailers. So we really had a good balance between the two. And, I learned a lot about how hard it was for some of these startups. They could have the great product idea, but if they didn't have a marketing channel, or vice versa, they had a great marketing channel, but their product was just eh. So I learned a lot in those 8 years. I went from a team of 12 to 13 when I left. And so we had grown the business, the top line, we had grown the customer base. We had existing customers that we just kept getting deeper and deeper with. And it was just a really fun opportunity where it was all white space. Like it was white space, but I had this great structure of a company and this great history of, again, a 20-year tenure this company had. So the systems were built and the processes were built. And, we had a logistics team and a CFO and all these things where I could just go and sell and go and build. So 8 years of that. And eventually, partway through it, I just had this nagging thing of like, okay, I'm being an entrepreneur. And I ended up actually buying into the company, which was also a huge, probably the best decision, one of the best decisions I probably will have made in my life. I could look back and say, investing in that company, cashing out my stock, taking money out of my house. I mean, we were down to living like bare bones for a while to buy equity in this company. But I could see the runway. My husband was like, I love the idea that you're able to build, but you have structure and support behind you. Cause that was always the challenge for me as an entrepreneur with my hobbies, was like nothing ever behind me structurally to help support the growth. And so that was by far the best decision at that time. And it's going to continue hopefully to pay dividends for me as the business is continuing to flourish. With me not there, it's still growing and that's amazing. We built an amazing team and they're continuing to have it succeed. But midway through that journey, I'm just thinking, man, I'm helping all these people launch businesses. And I have my own idea and it's like wearing at me. And then I think I said this maybe in one of the episodes, but I had the craziest tarot card reading where did I tell this already?
It's been a while. And I don't remember the outcome. So remind me.
So I had a crazy tarot card reading And she's more of an intuitive, to be fair. And so my grandpa came through and she described what he was wearing. And I was like, yep, that's him. Plaid flannel shirt. He's got like a cross around his neck. It was down to like every detail of my grandpa. And she's like, he's turning on the TV and Shark Tank's coming on. And I kind of just like looked at her and she's like, and ironically enough, Mark Cuban came to me when I was meditating this morning, and Mark Cuban's never come to me. And she's going on and on. And she's like, you can ask my daughter when we get out of this session. I told her like Mark Cuban came to me. And so what she didn't know is that ever since this idea has been planted, I've been manifesting Shark Tank. I'm like, this is a Shark Tank idea. Like this needs to get out in the world. And that is the platform where I can see it happening. And so literally, I mean, I kid you not, I said nothing. And she's like, Shark Tank. And I'm like, I know what it is.
I have goosebumps. I don't think you've told us this story.
Yeah, so literally she said, what is this about? And I said, well, I have this product idea and I've been toying with bringing it back or not, but I have a full-time job. And so it's going to be a lot. It's going to take investment. And she's like, well, and by the way, my grandpa was an entrepreneur. Now he was an entrepreneur who never really made it big. He was an artist though. So he was constantly coming up with ideas and inventions. And like, he died when I was so young. He died 8th grade. And I just wish with all my heart that I could go back and talk to him, because I'm sure we would be up all night.
I'm sure.
Kicking ideas around. So he had his own successful business in his own right, but never like the big scale that I know like he really wanted to get to with some of these things. So when she's like, well, I don't think there's a clearer sign. Mark Cuban came to me, your grandpa's turning on the TV of Shark Tank. Like, I think you need to start moving on this idea. And that literally the next day I came home from this trip, it was a girls trip, and I like kicked off R&D, like development with this product. And then 4 years later, here I am.
I don't remember the tarot reading, but I do remember when we met. Do you remember this? Over dinner at the barn.
Yes.
And you were like, I think I'm really going to do this. You were working with your friend at the time, Ashley?
Amelia.
No, Amelia was an A.
Yeah.
On it. And you were like, I really want you to help or be involved in some way. And I was like, I will support. I will give you feedback. I will be your cheerleader. But like, this is your baby. You got to take it.
Yeah. And to be fair, I'm going to give credit. The OG idea literally came from my friend Amelia. So we'd go on girl trips and be like, what's our $1 million idea? We talked about it all the time. Her and I both had our first boys, or both children at the same time. And she was struggling with really bad postpartum night sweats, and I was having them too.
Oh my goodness.
So
and
she came to me and said, Jackie, I have the $1 million idea. They don't exist. We need pajamas for nursing moms that can like help with night sweats. And her and I actually kicked off R&D. That was, 12 years ago. We did a little bit and got to a place, and then job changes and other kids came along, and it just kind of fell by the wayside with the craziness of life.
And really something we talked about a few episodes ago is just the accessibility of making your own product overseas is different than it used to be.
And I think that was the universe also protecting us, because her and I both were still very young. And 12 years, I've learned so much in the past 12 years. I can't imagine. I mean, we would have tried to have figured it out, but I don't know how successful it would have been, to be honest. And so what was crazy is 8 years later, when I want to bring this back up, I asked her, I'm like, hey, do you want to get back in? And she's like, no, like, I trust you, like, have at it. And I've given her, she's got a little royalty on the business. So she's definitely getting something kicked back here as we start to hopefully scale and grow and continue. But what's really cool is just that idea that started it has now spawned into like something so much bigger, like, yes, that is our OG product, but now we're in the menopause market, and then we're going into home and bedding, and then it just can keep going. So it's wild to look back on it. And, I was in a position, luckily, with my other job that was very successful. Like, it was a profitable business. So I knew that if I was going to launch this, I had to invest in somebody else. There was no way that I could run, at this point, like an 8-figure business with a team of 12 and, working probably 50, 60 hours a week on that business, that I was going to be able to successfully launch another business. But I knew I had to do it. Like, there was no way I'm not doing it. So I sat my husband down, like, this is what it's going to cost us. It's going to be an investment, but like I've always said, bet on me, bet on us. And so we did. And I hired a full-time associate to learn the business right out of college. And she moved from Florida to be with me, and she's still with me today. And I hope she's with me for the rest of my life. But
she enabled you to get in there while you were still working
100%.
a full-time
So
job.
I know that is a luxury. Not all people have that luxury, but I knew if I was going to do this, in my head, I knew the level to which I wanted it to be. And there was no way that I could physically do that myself at the speed that I wanted to launch the brand. So again, 2 years now, we're actually a year and a half, I would say our business has, and I just left my full-time job about, I think it's almost 4 months ago now, which is wild to think about. But I will say that the growth of the business, while I still had that job versus the exponentialness of what's happening now in the business since I fully left and leaned into it, it's pretty amazing. And I know, again, that's a luxury that I can afford myself to do because of the 8 years in my last company, because I invested, because I still, have that support financially coming out.
And because you have the expertise to do it at a speed and with the knowledge
correct
that you do.
Correct. Yeah, that is fair.
Which is obviously what we're here to help other people with as well.
Yeah. And so what's interesting though, is that the product piece, that's the easy part for me, right? Where for so many people, that's so challenging. And for me, what's hard is the marketing. Like we are spaghetti testing everything. We are throwing everything at the window and the walls to see what's sticking, what's working, but some things are. And so now it's learning how to double down in that and let go of some of the things that aren't, to focus more on and lean more into what is.
So let's get into some of the technical nitty gritty.
Yeah.
So if somebody who's listening is wanting to start their own business and they're like, okay, well, that sounds so easy. So I did it and here it is. No, what did some of those first steps look like?
Yeah, the research and development, it's called R&D of my fabric. I knew the fabric was going to be the most important part because pajamas are only so innovative, right? The design and style, there's not much to recreate the wheel there. And even nursing pajamas, I knew I wanted a clip. So the functionality, I wasn't inventing anything new with the actual style. So it came down to the fabric. So I probably spent a year on my own working with my factory directly, trying to get the right fabric. So we'd find a fabric, I'd have them cut me a sample, and I found women in a Facebook lactation group that were sweating at night. And I said, who is sweating? I have pajamas. I just need you to try them for me. Don't worry too much about the fit. If they're not perfect, they're not the cutest, but I just need to know if it works.
I want to go back real quick. And you said you worked with your factory on the fabric. So
Yes.
You found a factory who would do cut and sew, knit pajamas, and you went through them and said, I'm looking for an innovative fabric that does blank.
Correct.
And they helped you source it.
Correct. So they were working direct with a fabric mill that they use for a lot of their other products, right? So they weren't making it in-house, but they had a prior relationship. So they went to market, basically went to their mills and said, hey, we need a sweat wicking fabric that's also soft and ideally eco-friendly with not a lot of chemicals, all these different things. And so they sent me versions, and while they did work okay, it's really important for those that are in the apparel space that you wash test. How does a fabric actually hold up? What's the shrink? These are things that I knew about enough. So thank goodness I did. After washing that nursing tank about 5 times, I was noticing a lot of pilling, extreme pilling, to the point where I was like, this doesn't feel good. And so we went back to the drawing board, right? And kept going. And eventually I hit a roadblock where I said, I think I need next level help here. So versus me trying to, I don't want to say DIY it, but basically going through my factory, I said, I need a fabric specialist. So luckily from our A&F days, our head of fabric and development from Abercrombie now has her own fabric broker company. And so I went to her and said, hey, Betsy, here's where I'm at. I've developed this, and this. I think I'm getting closer, but I'm still not there yet. And she goes, I've been working on something with this fabric mill. It's super innovative. No one's really bought into it yet, but it's going to check all the boxes. And next thing you know, she cuts me our mint. She sends me a couple yards to my factory of this mint modal fabric, which is what we use today. And I sent it to my focus group ladies. And I remember I was crying when I heard the woman's review. She's like, what is this magic fabric? I have slept. This is my first night. I didn't take a shower. And she was 8 months postpartum, still having these horrible night sweats. So I still get goosebumps even thinking about it. So my point was, I had to level up. I thought I could do it myself. And turns out, no, I needed to go get an expert. So by doing that, I found the most amazing fabric and I was like, cool, this is it. Let's go. And so that's when I was able to really hit pedal to the metal and get production going.
That's great. I love hearing that piece of the story, especially for people who are listening saying, well, how do I just go overseas and find a fabric? You, as someone who has been in this industry, still had to pivot and go to someone else who is a fabric expert
Yeah.
and take that next step.
Yeah. And another pivot, again, you would think, well, I should know, I'm the expert. I launched with a manufacturer who in theory should have been great for me. Like, I've worked with them before. They have really good quality. So I leaned in on the fact that they were high quality. We barely had any QA QC issues with them. So from prior production, but turns out they were not a great partner for small batch. And of course, in my head, I thought, oh, we're going to be big. We're going to go out of the gate with large volume, and then we're just going to keep scaling. It's like, hold up, rewind. Like, I need some flexibility. I need to be able to test. I still need to be able to take my fabric and cut it into 6 different styles versus just one. And
So you pivoted to a new factory.
Factory who amazingly has 2 different sewing lines set up. So one is for large volume. So when I have a nice order from a retailer, they can run it at that scale. But then they have another sewing line where if I need 5, 10, 25, 500, and because they're a factory that I have an existing relationship with, they understand the big long-term vision of what I'm trying to build. They are excited to help me through all of those levels and quantities. So I'm so excited because that's what's allowing us right now for holiday to be launching into new silhouettes, new styles.
I'm so excited about the new silhouettes.
Yeah, new silhouettes, new styles, new colors. I mean, all of this is capable because I made a pivot to a new factory. I had to start development all over again.
Did you start all over from a tech pack, or did you send your existing styles to the new factory? So
Both.
that they could...
I sent my existing styles to say, hey, this is the kind of finish I want. And then here is my tech packs. And here for the new styles, they're actually a great factory for me. They will help create tech packs for me. So if I find something in the market that I like, I can actually send them those market styles and say, hey, I like this. Please use for fit. I want to change XYZ. And kind of like that one pager that we talk about in our course about a 1-page tech pack. That's kind of all I really need to give them. And then they will come back and fully flesh out my specs, my BOM pages, all the information that technically you might have to outsource to somebody else. My factory will actually do for me. So I always tell people, ask those questions. There is a good chance that you might not need to actually go and hire a full tech designer to get that garment made if you are not starting, again, if you're not recreating the wheel from scratch.
Right. That's so interesting to think about because people do get a little bit hung up on the tech pack part. And you're like, well, if it's the right factory,
yes,
you can get by with discussions and showing instead of telling. And there are so many ways to skin a cat, so to speak, when it comes to doing this. And, that's part of we talk about that in our course, but kind of the level to which you need to give information changes. But for you pivoted then to a new factory, and now you have flexibility for style, for color. I think you said they even will do digital print.
Yep. We just got our prints done. They're on their way. They're literally sewing my samples right now because I need to also, we'd love to get into prints for pajamas, obviously, but our fabric is so based on performance that when you digitally print, there's different heats being applied, there's different hand feels. So all of those reasons, I need to ensure that these pajamas are still going to work after they've been treated a different way. So I literally have wear test samples coming in. I'm going to be sending them out to some of my sweaty mamas and sweaty ladies out there to say, okay, those that have my existing pajamas that are sweating at night, how do those function compared to these printed styles? And I'm crossing fingers because if that works, that opens up a huge opportunity for us to run really small batch prints, do some really cool collabs with influence. I mean, it's just so cool what can happen if these prints really go. So, because what we'll do is we will dye what's called grayish fabric. So literally your fabric has no color to it. Imagine an off-white look, and then you print on top of it. So
raw,
kind of organic. So what that'll mean is I could buy 500 meters and I can make literally 500 different prints because it's digitally done 1 meter at a time. So it really becomes a game changer for how I can run the business.
So cool.
Yep. So that's all. You got all the sneak peeks now. You know exactly what's happening in my business.
Where you're from, where you're at, and what's coming. Let's pivot into our listeners here. What would you tell someone who has an idea, just has an idea?
I would say to start. It doesn't have to be this huge, heavy undertaking. I am a big proponent of testing. We talk about this a lot, focus grouping, and it's funny. It goes back to my Abercrombie roots. I worked in graphic t-shirts as a merchant in Abercrombie. Every single t-shirt I made had to be tested and focus group. So that means every graphic t-shirt that you ever saw in Abercrombie from 2005 to 2008 had sat in 15 stores and been rated and voted on. And then based on that selling, we would go back and print it for 500 stores, right? So I grew up in this test and learn and ask for feedback. So my point was saying that is you don't have to just jump right into bulk manufacturing. Find a way to test your idea in a very small way. That might be finding someone local to just sew for you. And by the way, you can find that on, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. Like you can find people that are willing to help you kind of cottage industry this idea just to make sure there's viability to it, right? Because I've had a lot of ideas. It doesn't mean they're all viable though, right? So I would just say, speak it into existence. We did that. We talked about that in a podcast, right? Like saying it out loud, start journaling it down. What would this actually look like? What could this mean? What would I need to make this a reality? And sometimes I just think putting the energy out there and just starting to, if I didn't have that tarot card reading, who knows? Like I hope to think that the idea at some point would have come out, of my body, but it took someone speaking to me about it and me having to speak it into existence to really get the ball rolling. So I would say just start and don't think you have to be at the finish line anytime
put one foot
soon.
in front of the
That's
next.
literally I say a mile is run step by step, right? So it's really just starting, educating yourself. Our podcast is a great free resource to go back and just start learning and ideating and thinking about it. And
just pump yourself up to get out there and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And networking. Like I'm telling you, there are people out there who already have done this thing or in the middle of doing this thing. So starting to connect with people on LinkedIn and just reaching out. People love giving advice on things that they've done. They do. People love helping and sharing. And so, that might be another way to start is like just doing some research and investigation of who else has done something similar and like, what can you learn from them even just to get the wheels turning.
What's a lesson that you learned the hard way?
Ooh, I've learned a lot of lessons in the past year and a half. I highly underestimated my marketing, the effort, the energy, the cost. And we teach in our coursework, right? We teach the margins you need for all of those reasons. And thankfully, without me even totally knowing it intuitively, I knew enough from my corporate background as to what margins to hit. Like I needed to be at a 70 to 80 to make it work net. I didn't necessarily understand all the why behind it, to be honest, because we had never done the marketing side per se as a merchant to really know what that cost was.
Because then, when you work in a corporation, you are making that top line kind of like gross margin.
Yep.
And then all of that general and administrative, it's coming out by someone else, someone over in a different part of the company, and you don't even know what that is.
Totally.
So your like actual net margin after all of your expenses, what you take home at the end of the day, we didn't see that.
Yeah.
But we knew that someone in the company told us that to make it work, we have to be here.
Yeah.
And so you just followed that, and then it gave you enough to kick off some of that marketing. And now you can plan for it a little better because you've seen how much it costs.
Yeah. So I think that was definitely a learning. And also kind of in tandem with that, my opening order was a lot larger than it should have been, to be honest. And that was partially driven by my factory, to be fair. The MOQ was a lot higher. And again, I underestimated like the marketing piece.
Sure.
I had such great feedback on my Facebook focus group. They're like, yes, this needs to be out there. And so I bought all this inventory and then like launched, by the way, never posting on Instagram before I launched. And I was like, oh shit, I got to find people now. Right. And like this influencer marketing sounds so easy. And it's
you just
like,
think if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And you're like, not necessarily.
Not exactly with an e-commerce business. So yeah, I would say that was a good learning and education for sure.
That's amazing.
And still every day, still figuring that out. But,
I think that your product is so special, and we didn't talk a lot about that because, we want to give people some of the background, but like, what are your dreams and like when you think about your product and like where it's going to be in the future and the impact it's going to have on people? Like, what do you think of?
Yeah, so we haven't really talked about what it does. So technically it is a mint infused fabric that helps wick sweat away. And the mint is actually a natural antibacterial. So without adding chemicals, you actually can kill the odor that a night sweat could leave behind, whether you're, again, postpartum, perimenopause, and many other reasons why people run hot at night, you know, in those hormone shifts. So while we are technically in the sleep category right now, specifically for women's, there, as I mentioned, there's a home sleep component of it, bedding and sheets. These are just little stars out in the future, but we have been getting a lot of requests for children's pajamas because a lot of us that have kiddos know that like my boys wake up drenched in sweat every night, whether that's
Both of my kids sleep so
right. So we've gotten a request for like, hey, if we decide to stay in the sleep space here, like it could extend the product category, could go that way. There's also been requests for athleisure wear because this fabric can be knit even in a sweatshirt like I'm wearing. You can make it so that if you sweat in a hoodie, the mint will kill the bacteria and it's just a super soft fabric. So a lot of our menopausal women are saying, well, we have hot flashes during the day. And some women are wearing even our sleep t-shirts on their Zoom calls. And so they're like a little bit heavier weight version would be great for day wear. So there's a lot of different avenues, and not to mention that this might be pretty big, but hormonal shifts in women's health is not a US only problem. This is like a worldwide thing that we as women encounter. So I also could see down the road with the right partner, like there could be some international expansion here because women in other countries are also sweating and having these same issues. So, you know, when I step back, I see a very large brand opportunity here. Now, exactly all the avenues that we're going to go down, I'm not 100% clear on that just yet, to be honest. And the business is kind of dictating that. So I'm going to stay open to what that looks like. But I do believe the ability to help women right now have more restful sleep. There are still so many women that we have not reached, right? From marketing and all those reasons why, but we have some really exciting things coming up this holiday, events that we're attending with some really big voices in the market in this industry that are excited. I'm excited to get in front of. And then we have some really exciting things coming up next quarter with a different distribution channel. I can't mention yet, but there's some exciting exposure, I'll say, that could happen with this brand. And so my goal is that we can just continue to help people have better rest, whatever that looks like, sleep, night, or even during the day. Like, how do we help combat the effects of what we as women just go through with our hormones, right? Like, it's just part of our journey. And so I think there's a lot of runway ahead. I think sometimes it's a little overwhelming with like, wow, okay, we can go in so many directions. So I try not to get shiny object right now and just focus on the task at hand.
You hit the nail on the head when you said that, like, helping women have restful sleep, and just if you stay the course on like what lights you up from a purpose standpoint, you'll always be going in the right direction.
100%. And it's funny, I listened to a podcast this past week about another woman business owner here in Columbus, and what hit me so hard was she has created the most amazing spa, and at the core of it was so much heart and so much purpose. And I just feel like personally, with a lot of the women-owned businesses that I have recently encountered and got to know, yes, we're all here to make money. We got to make money. Money is important. It is freedom. And also women having money is very important now, more so than ever, right? For that power, for that ability to make change. But I also love how it's not just about the money. And every woman I have literally spoken with as of late, there's something deeper. That's the passion behind it. That's going to help when days get tough to be like, nope, this is not just about this top line number. Like, yes, that is important. And so is XYZ.
Having enough revenue gives you the clarity of mind to make decisions that are right and that are aligned with your purpose, not out of a scarcity or out of fear or out of any of those other like lower vibration emotions. So when you make enough money and when your margins are right and you have some breathing room, you can really focus on your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gotta, it's for me, it's both, right? The helping women have better sleep is the purpose and the drive, but we are building this to be a very profitable business that can also do a lot of good. So
it's amazing.
Yeah. So we're excited.
I love to hear that story. And the thing is that, like, I've heard bits and parts of it before, but even I gleaned some new things.
Great.
And I think we're going to go on and we're going to tell other stories. I have a a story we're going to tell in the future.
Yes.
We haven't put that on the calendar yet.
Yep. It's coming.
But I think that it's really nice to talk to our listeners just about some of the things behind our own successes and what lights us up and what brought us to this point and what got us thinking, this is information, this is education, this is industry information that anyone who wants to build a product line needs to know.
Yeah, definitely.
And here's how we use it.
Exactly. And that, again, even an expert like myself has stumbled and fallen and gotten back up and had to pivot and turn, right? So just because you have a background in product development and merchandising, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have all the answers either. You know, I have to go use my partners that know more, that can go deeper than even my knowledge. So just know that you don't have to be an expert in any of it. You just have to have a drive to want to figure it out and then start and then find the people that can help put the pieces together for you.
That's great information.
Yeah.
Great advice. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Jackie, for telling your story
Yes,
today.
You're welcome.
And we'll catch you next week on
The Sourcing Gals.